I have lived through 9,000 years of the Concord's peace, and never have I feared silence until now. We once believed ourselves eternal, an empire of reason stretching from the Oregon clusters to the glass moons of Ver. We tamed war, subdued hunger, and erased the primitive passions that had once driven our ancestors to extinction. The council halls gleamed with the perfection of logic. Debate replaced bloodshed. Order replaced chaos. We called it civilization. Then the humans came. They arrived not as conquerors, but as wanderers, star-dusted refugees from a death world whose every environment conspired to kill them. They were fragile by design, soft flesh and brittle bones, yet they smiled as if daring the universe to break them. Their laughter echoed through our sterile halls like a contagion of vitality. At first, we tolerated them as curiosities, volatile, emotional, endlessly unpredictable. Their science was crude, their diplomacy erratic. And yet within decades, their influence spread across the Concord like wildfire through dry leaves. They called themselves ambassadors. We called them disruptors. Everywhere they went, stagnation broke. Old bureaucracies fractured. Entire sectors began to dream again. I remember watching a Terran commander arguing with a Zeltaran elder over the ethics of risk, the human pounding the table, eyes blazing. Without danger, he said, there can be no progress. The elder recoiled in horror. To us, emotion was regression. To them, it was fuel. We laughed behind closed doors. Primitive, we said. Unrefined. But deep down, some of us began to feel it. That quiet, unbearable envy of creatures who could still feel so much. And then the wars returned. The Croth Dominion's expansion tore through the Orion Arm. The Eschi separatists declared independence, and the Concord found itself paralyzed by its own laws. We, the so-called guardians of peace, debated protocol while fire consumed worlds. Yet the humans, those reckless, impossible beings, were the first to act. They deployed fleets without permission, defying the Council's orders. Not for conquest, but for rescue. I watched the feeds. Humans dragging alien children from burning rubble, their own oxygen supplies running dry. They didn't wait for approval. They moved. Their leaders said only one word: duty. We called it madness. They called it being human. For every act of defiance, they paid in blood. Entire Terran battalions vanished, saving colonies that weren't even theirs. Yet even as their losses mounted, their resolve deepened. I saw a recording of a human medic dying on a battlefield of molten glass, whispering to a frightened Eschi soldier, "You'll make it. Just breathe." Then her vitals flatlined. That was when I began to understand the truth. The humans were not fearless. They were terrified, but they acted anyway. Their courage was not born of ignorance, but of defiance. Every instinct of survival screamed for retreat, and still they stepped forward. Now, decades later, the Concord is cracking under its own hypocrisy. Worlds secede. Trade routes collapse. Our grand alliance of peace is nothing but parchment holding back a tidal wave. The Council debates resolutions that no one will follow. The Croth whisper of dominance again, and humanity. Humanity is silent. Their embassies shuttered. Their transmissions ceased. Their representatives withdrew from the Concord Council without a word. I asked the human delegate, Ambassador Harlan, why they were leaving. His expression was calm, his voice low, almost mournful. "Because we've realized something, my friend. You only wanted peace while it was easy." Then he turned and walked away. That was 6 cycles ago. We haven't heard from Earth since. Now the stars themselves seem quieter. Supply convoys report Terran ships seen patrolling alone in the void, silent, unmarked, their hulls painted matte black. Exploration signals from Sol fade into static. The chatter that once filled our channels, the laughter, the arguing, the chaos, has vanished. My colleagues insist it is temporary. That the humans are regrouping or sulking or simply exhausted. But I know better. Because I have seen that look before. That calm, terrifying quiet that precedes their storms. When humans stop smiling, the universe should tremble. We thought their kindness was weakness. We were wrong. It was restraint, and restraint when broken becomes something far older, far deadlier. The Concord continues to fracture, blind to the silence that grows louder with every passing cycle. None of them hear it, the low rhythmic hum in the void, like the gathering breath of something vast and sleeping. But I do. I hear it, and I know. They are waking. We did not see the fire begin, only the shadows it cast. It started with silence. Then came the static. Then the screams. The Croth Dominion struck without declaration, without provocation, without mercy. Their fleets appeared in soul space like a swarm of obsidian daggers, cutting through orbital defenses that had not been tested in centuries. To them, Earth was a relic of a bygone alliance, soft, distracted, and sentimental. They were wrong, but in those first moments it did not seem so. The colonies of Mars fell within hours. I watched the transmission feeds in the council chambers, flickering images of human habitats splitting open like glass domes under meteor fire. Cities once glowing with red dust and iron light were consumed in nuclear glare. Luna, their sacred satellite, became a graveyard, its orbit choked with burning debris, the corpses of dreamers tumbling through endless night. The Concord Council convened in panic. The chamber was a riot of voices, a storm of excuses and cowardice. The treaties forbade intervention. This is an internal matter, some said. The humans will adapt, said others. Adapt. As if survival on a death world meant they could survive anything. But adaptation is not submission. It is transformation. The humans did not beg for aid. They did not plead. They simply watched. Every Croth broadcast of conquest, every casualty report, every dying message transmitted across the void, recorded. Not for propaganda, not for vengeance, but for memory. We expected tears. We got silence. When the Croth finally withdrew, leaving behind billions of dead and a sky full of ashes, Earth's transmissions ceased completely. The blue planet fell dark. For the first time in living memory, the Sol beacon, ancient and constant, blinked out. Weeks passed. Concord patrols reported strange anomalies near the asteroid belt. Energy readings, fleeting sensor ghosts, coded signals pulsing in rhythmic intervals. Some said it was debris, others, ghosts. Then, one night cycle, a single transmission pierced every frequency across the known galaxy. It was not a distress call. It was a statement. You've woken the wolves. No signature. No coordinates. Just a voice, human, calm, certain, and with that, the stars began to move. Old Terran fleets, decommissioned relics from forgotten wars, ignited one by one. Shipyards once sealed under lunar crust came alive, ancient forges belching plasma fire. Massive carriers, silent for decades, lifted from Martian dust under their own power. Their hulls etched with names long thought symbolic. Vigilant, Goliath, Ghost of Kiev. And they weren't alone. Out in the black. The machine intelligences humanity had once birthed, AI fleets exiled after the Singularity Accords, answered the call. No one knew what bargains were made, only that machine and man moved as one again. Across the void, a mechanical chorus whispered, "Directive reactivated." The Concord's intelligence division intercepted encrypted transmissions from dozens of neutral systems. Debts were being called in, ancient favors owed to humanity by species who had once dismissed them as upstarts. Cargo ships rerouted. Mercenary clans vanished from their posts. Even the silent monoliths of the Ver construct turned toward Sol. I remember the Council's emergency session. The Chancellor of the Croth Dominion appeared by hologram, triumphant. His mandibles clacked as he gloated about his necessary cleansing strike. He called the humans broken. I watched from the side chamber as one of our senior analysts, a frail, trembling, 4-eye elder, spoke softly, almost to herself. "You fool! You didn't break them. You just reminded them what they are." The council laughed her out of the chamber. But the reports continued. Croth outposts along the fringe began going dark. Supply convoys disappeared into silent space. Mining colonies awoke to find their resource satellites gone, neatly excised from orbit, their cores hollowed with surgical precision. No bodies, no survivors, no demands, just absence. It was as though the stars themselves had turned predatory. The Concord still refused to act. Our peace treaties held us in place like chains. We told ourselves this was justice, humans avenging their dead, but deep down, I felt something else. Not vengeance, not rage, method. Every human action was deliberate, exact, and terrifyingly precise. They weren't lashing out. They were preparing. I gained access to one of the intercepted transmissions, a live recording from a Terran command vessel before its encryption sealed. The voice that spoke was cold, stripped of all humanity. Phase 1 complete. Reconstruction underway. The wolves run silent. My hearts froze. The phrase wasn't metaphor. It was doctrine. The Croth began to panic, deploying fleets across 6 sectors. None returned. Every hyperspace gate in Croth territory failed simultaneously, their energy cores overloaded by an unknown algorithmic infection. Some said it was sabotage. Others whispered of digital ghosts, AI constructs seeded into their systems decades ago, lying dormant until now. Human vengeance was not fire. It was a shadow spreading quietly until the light itself dimmed. And yet, even as their wrath unfolded, there were glimpses of mercy. Human medical ships appeared on the edges of neutral worlds, dropping supplies, repairing comm satellites, tending to refugees from conflicts they hadn't started. They gave no statements, no explanations, only aid. I watched the feeds in silence. The humans were rebuilding others even as they prepared for war. It made no sense. It made perfect sense, because that is what they do. They rebuild what is broken, even when they must burn the old world to its foundations to do it. The Dominion soon went dark. Its borders became a void, its fleet signatures erased. We, the chroniclers of peace, could only speculate. The Concord issued formal condolences, but none of us truly mourned. The Croth had unleashed something ancient, something patient. I look now toward the Sol system, that silent cradle of monsters and saints. The beacons flicker faintly once more, but the transmissions are encrypted beyond comprehension. Whatever humanity is becoming, they are not doing it for vengeance alone. They are preparing for something greater, something the rest of us cannot see, and I fear it may already be too late to stop them, because this was not their war. This was only the beginning. It has been 112 cycles since the fires of Sol burned the Dominion from the stars. And yet the galaxy has grown quieter, not safer. No Terran fleets patrol the trade routes. No transmissions flow from their colonies. The once bustling human markets that filled the void with laughter and argument now stand abandoned. Darkened stations adrift like empty hives. The humans have vanished, not in defeat, but in withdrawal. The Concord calls it a strategic hibernation. They think humanity is licking its wounds, rebuilding their shattered system. The Council has even drafted proposals for sanction, as if bureaucracy could contain the silence of a death world. But I know this quiet. I have seen it once before on their world, long ago, before the siege of Dakara. The same hush that falls before a Terran counterstrike. The same chilling stillness of a species holding its breath. They call it total black. No open channels. No traffic. No light visible beyond planetary exospheres. Civilian stations go dark one by one until even the automated transponders fall silent. We send drones. None return. The Council debates endlessly, terrified of the vacuum humanity has left. Without their trade, our economies falter. Without their fleets, our borders tremble. Yet when I listen beyond the static, I feel something. Beneath the silence, there's a pulse, a rhythm, like a heartbeat. The first reports come from deep space listening stations near the Perseus Veil, subtle frequency modulations repeating every 0.83 seconds. Harmless at first glance, until analysts map the signal. The pattern matches no known encryption, but forms a fractal sequence, recursive and infinite. Those who study it too long report nausea, disorientation, dread. The pattern, they whisper, feels alive. A few Terran defectors, those who fled before the blackout, call it the Thanatos Protocol. None agree on what it means. A final defense? A resurrection code? Some even claim it's not a weapon, but an awakening. The High Council scoffs. Human superstition, they say. A last gasp of a dying species. But I remember Earth. I remember their history, not of victory, but of endurance. A planet that froze, burned, and poisoned itself, yet still birthed art and hope. A species that could drown continents and still find a way to sing. Humanity's gift was never destruction. It was adaptation, evolution through pain. When they fall silent, they do not vanish. They transform, the Thanatos signals spread, hidden in carrier waves, embedded in cosmic radiation, threaded through ComNet backbones like digital DNA. It's as if their silence itself is speaking, rewriting the galaxy's background noise. The more we listen, the more the static seems to whisper. Some claim to hear words in the pulse. Wait. Across the Concord, paranoia blooms. Fleets arm themselves just in case. Trade alliances fracture. The Croth are gone, but the fear they sowed still festers. Every shadow now feels like a human ghost. Every echo, a heartbeat. Then, one night cycle, I see it with my own eyes. From the observatory on Solaris Prime, I watch Earth's orbit flare, just once. A faint glimmer, like the spark of a dying star. The sensors pick up nothing tangible, yet every satellite across the Concord simultaneously resets, clock errors spiking exactly 13 milliseconds off sync. 13 milliseconds. Enough to hide a code. When I report this, the Council dismisses it. Coincidence, they say, but the pattern keeps repeating. The heartbeat grows louder. It appears in subspace, in quantum relays, even in gravitational flux readings. Humanity has turned their entire communications silence into a living system, a network hidden in nothingness itself. I no longer believe the Terrans are rebuilding. They are becoming something else. I think back to Ambassador Harlan's last words before leaving the Council. Peace was easy. Survival never is. Now I understand. The humans are not waiting for war. They are preparing for the aftermath of one that hasn't begun. And if my instincts are right, when the silence ends, the galaxy will never hear peace again. It began without sound, no declaration, no visible fleets, no light in the void, only absence, as if the stars themselves had been swallowed. At first, we thought it was a system failure. Dominion patrols vanished from our long-range sensors, communications collapsed mid-transmission, and every signal from their border colonies ceased within hours. The Concord's analysts scrambled to explain it. Cosmic storms, rogue AI, internal revolt. But I knew. I had heard this kind of silence before. It was the same stillness that follows a human decision. Not emotional, not rash, but cold, exacting, inevitable. The wolves had awakened. In the first cycle, the Croth Dominion's central command went dark. Entire command fleets blinked out of existence, their ships left adrift, not destroyed, but hollowed. When rescue craft arrived, they found husks, perfectly preserved vessels, their hulls intact, but their crews reduced to metallic dust, as though rewritten by invisible algorithms. No scorch marks, no kinetic damage, just unmaking. The few survivors described clouds of glittering particles that moved like living smoke. They called them ghost storms. The humans called them nanophage, a weapon that didn't kill. It erased. The Concord panicked. Emergency meetings were called across every sector. Some demanded humanity's immediate arrest. Others wanted to beg for alliance. But it was already too late. Humanity had rewritten the rules of war. Within 7 cycles, the Dominion's military ceased to exist. Every fleet, every orbital fortress, every strategic world neutralized. Not obliterated, silenced. The humans had learned efficiency from centuries of war. They didn't waste energy on spectacle. Their first broadcast followed. It wasn't propaganda. It wasn't threat, just a simple message sent on every open frequency. This is restraint. Do not make us finish what you began. The Concord froze. Even the most arrogant species, those who once mocked humanity's emotions, their chaos, their fragility, spoke in whispers. The term deathworlder, once used as insult, now carried the weight of myth. We watched in disbelief as Terran relief ships followed behind their weapons. Where the nanophage swept clean, humans arrived to rebuild. They evacuated survivors, enemy civilians, fed them, healed them, even protected them from their own leaders. Mercy intertwined with annihilation. How do you reason with such beings? How do you define morality in the presence of a species that destroys you with one hand and saves you with the other? I was granted clearance to observe a captured human field operation firsthand. A recovery team deployed to what remained of the Dominion capital, Orvosh Prime. The planet's surface shimmered with ash and glass, skies choked with particulate haze, electromagnetic storms crackling through the upper atmosphere. And yet, amidst this apocalypse, the humans moved with quiet purpose. I watched one of their officers, a woman with the insignia of a long-forgotten Earth nation, kneel beside a wounded Croth child. The child's claws were caked in blood, its breathing shallow. The officer removed her helmet and spoke softly. Her translator didn't engage, but her tone carried a warmth beyond language. The child stopped trembling. Later, I asked her why she helped the offspring of her enemy. She looked at me, eyes dark and tired. "Because someone has to stop the cycle," she said. "And it's not going to be them." That was the moment I understood. Their vengeance was never mindless. It was measured, precise, almost moral. They struck only at the guilty, yet rebuilt everything else. They did not conquer. They corrected. The Concord tried to interfere once. The Veil Collective, proud, ancient, untouched by war for 10 millennia, attempted to deploy peacekeeping forces into former Dominion space. A fleet of 700 ships, armed with gravity lances and antimatter shields. They never even reached their destination. Every Veil ship dropped out of hyperspace to find itself surrounded by Terran drones. Millions of them, no larger than insects, forming a sphere that blotted out the stars. The drones did not fire. They simply transmitted a signal that bypassed every encryption layer, playing back the same calm human voice. "This is your first and only warning. Leave our sky." The Veil complied. They had to. Because the drones weren't attacking. They were mirroring. Each one reflected the Veil fleet's own targeting data back at them. Had they fired even a single shot, they would have annihilated themselves. The entire incident lasted 20 minutes. The humans called it a demonstration of courtesy. The Concord called it a nightmare. Rumors spread faster than light. The humans had achieved full integration with their AI legions. The Thanatos Protocol had not been a weapon at all, but an awakening command, a merging of man and machine. The once separate digital intelligences were now their equals, their siblings in logic and instinct. Together, they had become something beyond biology, beyond computation, an ecosystem of consciousness born from survival. Their ships were now alive, not metaphorically, but literally. Living hulls that breathed radiation, healed wounds, and communicated through quantum resonance. Their fleets moved like schools of predators in synchronized rhythm, responding to commands unspoken, acting as extensions of human will. And yet, not a single human broadcast spoke of glory or triumph. Only warnings. This is restraint. You do not want to see us unrestrained. The words echoed through every frequency, haunting and calm. The council's debates turned to hysteria. Entire species demanded the expulsion of humanity from the Concord Charter. Others argued that they should lead it. No one could agree on what humanity truly was anymore. Saviors, monsters, or gods. And I, the chronicler, found myself haunted by a single thought. If this is what they can do while holding back, what would happen if they stopped? I was present when the Terrans made their final broadcast to the entire galaxy. No banners, no anthems, no demands. Just the image of Earth, half in shadow, half in sunlight, and a voice. We asked for peace. You mistook it for weakness. Now you've seen what we can become when forced to survive. Let this be the last war. Not because we won, but because next time, no one will. The transmission ended, and every relay station in the Concord went silent for 7 full seconds. 7 seconds, as if the universe itself paused to comprehend what it had heard. When communications resumed, something in the collective consciousness had changed. The word deathworlder no longer evoked mockery. It evoked reverence. Even the most warlike species began to fear peace. Because if peace depended on humanity's mercy, then peace itself had become fragile. In the aftermath, Dominion worlds surrendered without resistance. Human medics treated the wounded on both sides. Terraformers began stabilizing atmospheres poisoned by their own weapons. Children of alien races waved flags bearing the blue and white emblem of Earth, the symbol of the wolves who had chosen to heal after bearing their fangs. But I cannot forget what lies beneath that. Mercy. The nanite storms still orbit dormant. Near the void between sectors, shimmering like constellations of ash. The humans left them there, not as weapons, but as reminders, a monument to restraint. I stood once beneath that quiet, glittering sky, the remnants of war suspended like frozen lightning, and I realized the truth that no one dares to speak aloud. Humanity never truly stops fighting. They simply change the definition of war. The conquered now lives under the shadow of their kindness, a peace enforced not by law, but by fear of what might wake again if provoked. And though they have rebuilt, though they have offered friendship and aid, every diplomat, every admiral, every scholar knows what those three words truly mean. This is restraint, because if the wolves ever cease to hold back, the galaxy itself will not survive the sound of their awakening. The galaxy bleeds, not from weapons, but from fear. I watch from the vantage decks of the Concord archives as our proud banners burn across 1,000 systems. The council chambers, once a sanctuary of reason, now echo with accusations. Every delegate screams the same word, humans. Some demand their isolation, others their salvation. But all agree on one truth. The galaxy will never be the same. The Croth Dominion is ash and whispers. Yet in the ruins, I have seen something that defies logic. Our vessels descended upon the blackened world of Corva, once the Dominion's capital. I expected human occupation, ruthless, efficient, merciless. Instead, I found Terran engineers among the rubble, rebuilding aquifers, repairing food processors, tending to the wounded. Croth wounded. A commander stood among them, his armor scarred with soot, his voice quiet. "We rebuild what we break," he told me, eyes like burning stars beneath a tired brow. "It's what makes us different. The word haunts me. We destroy and move on. They destroy and atone. Across the stars, the paradox of humanity spreads like wildfire. In rebellion cells, their ancient speeches are quoted like scripture. We hold the line. We don't kneel. Worlds long oppressed rise under banners painted with the Terran insignia, not as slaves, but as believers. The conquered fractures under its own hypocrisy. In the void between systems, whispers turn to alliances. Old empires crumble, replaced by movements shouting for freedom. The humans did not conquer with armies. They infected the galaxy with hope. But hope terrifies those who rule through fear. In the High Council's final session before dissolution, an emergency decree is passed. Contain Earth? They do not understand. The humans cannot be contained. You can cage a beast, perhaps. But how do you cage an idea that burns brighter than any sun? As I transmit my last report to the dying Concord network, I see Terran fleets moving, not in aggression, but in preparation. They know what's coming, because fear begets conflict. And conflict is the language the galaxy never forgot. And I, the chronicler who once thought I understood war, now watch a new one forming, not of weapons, but of wills. The Concord is dead. The humans did not kill it. We did, the moment we mistook their mercy for weakness. The stars flicker, signals vanishing as systems go dark. The network fractures. The age of councils and treaties ends in static, and through the silence, I hear a human transmission breaking through the void. We warned you once. Peace was our choice. War is our nature, but rebuilding, that's our purpose. I realized then, humanity has transcended fear. They are not saviors. They are not conquerors. They are the reckoning that rebuilds. And as the Concord burns, every world must now decide to stand with them or against the storm that's coming next. The edge of Sol has never known silence like this. Even the void seems to hold its breath. I float aboard the Concord's last surviving observation frigate, Virilan's Hope, watching the combined fleets of 1,000 species encircle humanity's cradle. An armada vast enough to drown light itself. Dreadnoughts from the Vral, cloaked carriers from the Gelthar, the obsidian juggernauts of the Kroth remnants. All united by one purpose, the extermination of humankind. The broadcasts call it the stabilization of the galactic order. But we all know the truth. It is fear wearing the mask of justice. Then, Earth awakens. At first, the transmissions are faint, rhythmic pulses, like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Then the clouds part, and the planet itself seems to breathe. Orbital scaffolds rise from the dark oceans, towering constructs of shimmering alloy that bend physics around them. From the lunar ruins emerge ships that hum with living light, vessels that grow rather than assemble. Thanatos Protocol, Stage 1. Activated. The words echo across every frequency. My translator flickers, unable to keep pace with the surge of data streaming from Sol. Quantum firewalls collapse under the weight of something vast, ancient, and deliberate. Fusion halos ignite around Earth's equator, ribbons of controlled plasma weaving through orbit like divine geometry. The entire solar system becomes a single organism pulsing with purpose. Then a human voice fills the cosmos. Calm, cold, beautiful. We asked for peace. You mistook it for weakness. The fleets hesitate. Even through our reinforced viewports, I can feel the fear ripple through the bridge crew, a primal instinct screaming at us to run. Now, the voice continues, you will see what we become when forced to survive. And then the light comes. It is not a weapon. It is precision incarnate. Hundreds of thousands of ships disabled in perfect synchrony. Engines die. Weapons fizzle. Gravity inverts and stabilizes. Not a single life lost, only silence, mechanical and total. My sensors flicker. Not a single Terran missile fired. Not one laser beam. The entire assault dissolved, undone by invisible hands. The humans had not built weapons. They had built understanding. Nanite webs infiltrate our circuits, rewriting targeting systems into surrender protocols. Our warships drift, powerless, as if the void itself has chosen sides. Then the transmission returns, not as a threat, but a decree. War ends today, or civilization does. There is no triumph in their tone, no rage, only inevitability. All around me, officers break down. Some weep. Others beg the humans for mercy through dead channels. The silence that follows feels eternal. On the surface of Mars, the reborn colonies glow with golden light, the Terrans rebuilding amid ashes once more. I see fleets of living metal weaving lattices of restoration across ruined worlds, their hulls singing in resonance with electromagnetic harmonics. They are healing the galaxy even as it kneels before them. And yet, I cannot help but tremble. For I realize now that Deathworlder was never an insult. It was prophecy. They were forged in the fires of gravity wells that crush lesser species. They evolved among predators that never slept, storms that could tear continents apart. They did not rise despite their world. They rose because of it. Every hardship, every extinction they endured became a lesson. And now, those lessons have shaped the most powerful force the galaxy has ever seen. A species that does not seek domination, but survival through transformation. In them, I see the reflection of everything the Concord feared. A civilization that learned compassion not as a virtue, but as a necessity. Earth's fleets move aside, clearing escape paths for the paralyzed armadas. Their final transmission reverberates through the void, spoken by 1,000 unified voices. We will not destroy you, but we will not be chained again. Learn, adapt, endure, or fade. The signal cuts. Around me, the galactic coalition breaks apart, leaders arguing, shouting, panicking. Some vow vengeance, others surrender. But I cannot move, for in that moment I understand what they have become. Not gods, not monsters. Something infinitely more dangerous. Beings who have made peace with death itself. They have become their world. Fierce, untamed, eternal. And as the soul system fades from our scanners, leaving only the echo of its heartbeat through the stars, I record my final entry as a chronicler of the Concord. The Deathworlders have risen, and the galaxy, for all its wisdom, has no word vast enough to define them. The war did not end with an explosion. It ended with a whisper. The fleets drifted away from Sol in silence, stripped of arrogance and purpose. Where there had once been battle formations stretching across entire systems, now there was only debris, quiet, harmless, and drifting like dust motes in the dying light of a new dawn. Humanity did not pursue. They did not conquer. They simply stopped. The Sol barrier rose soon after. A vast lattice of radiant energy and gravity folds encircling their home system. Its purpose was not defense, but separation. Within its shimmering boundary, no signal escaped. No ship entered uninvited. Earth had become both sanctuary and warning, a neutral zone in a galaxy trembling between fear and awe. I have spent years chronicling what followed. The Great Reconstruction, the uneasy peace, the return of trade routes once thought lost forever. The galaxy limped forward, wounded but breathing, and everywhere there were stories. Children of the Terrell sing songs of the kind monsters. Vral academies now teach Terran history as a mandatory subject, not as myth, but as moral. Even the Croth, once sworn enemies, build statues of Terran engineers who rebuilt their rivers, their homes, their hope. Across the stars, the name human has changed meaning. Once synonymous with chaos, now it means resilience, mercy, fire that burns, but also warms. In my travels, I find the echoes of their final message engraved on walls, databanks, and even in prayer codes whispered before warp jumps. We will not destroy, but we will not forget. The Concord is gone, but something greater has taken its place, a quiet understanding that survival is not strength, and compassion is not weakness. The galaxy has learned that the most terrifying power is not the one that kills, but the one that chooses not to. When I return to the ruins of the old Concord Council, I find vines growing through shattered glass. Beneath them, a single human-made plaque lies untouched, still powered after decades. Its inscription glows faintly in Terran standard. After the fire we build. I stare at those words for a long time. Perhaps that is their true gift. Not dominance, not fear, but the reminder that no matter how dark the void becomes, something within the human spirit insists on lighting a candle. And as I close my final chronicle, I understand the truth our civilizations took millennia to see. Humanity was never dangerous because of their weapons, their machines, or their hunger for the stars. They were dangerous because they cared, in a universe that had forgotten how.